How are you all? Hope you're okay. In this video, back in the greenhouse, back with the grow on, and I'm going to pan round and take you straight to the grow on because I've made a slight modification. And what I've done is, where the 2-inch pond return is there, I've butchered a bit of an adapter, pushed it in. It's a bit like an eyeball. So if I turn the air off to the system, I've now got an air line to my orchid water tub. There's an air stone in that aerates that water when I put fertiliser in there, and then there's a line that goes to this pond, the grow on, and I'll come to this in a minute. It's quite interesting, I thought. And then this one line goes to the bottom drain, which is on a 4-inch flat disc. So I'll turn that off. There it is. So that's off. And I'll come to what I've done here. Here's the koi in here, happy as Larry. This water seems to have cleared up a little bit. Now what you will notice is the water level is a lot higher. So what have I done? What have I done? There was, if you look at my last video, vlog 65, this went into here and out to waste. So what I've done now, I've tapped into the side of the EazyPod, so it's actually overflowing from here. And what I've managed to do there's my overflow point and top off. I've managed to balance it, so that's the water level, and here's the filter level, and I've increased the filter level quite drastically and that valve there is open fully now. Before I had to reduce that valve, so it reduced, imparted some back pressure on the pump, which then reduced the flow, the draw by the pump. But anyway, what I've done, the pump is still on the same setting, so it's turning this over every hour, and the valve is open fully, so I've got full flow through the return. And what I've done, by putting the overflow there, I've done the not the overflow, oh yeah, the overflow, it's being topped off, the water is being topped off by this pipe and dripped in at 10%. So this pond gets water into this setup, 2,000 litres per week. I've measured that, and then it overflows there. So the water comes in and obviously gets through the pump and then through the system. But what it's done is it's made the water level to this level here where it's overflowing. So if that goes any higher, it would go in there and overflow. Now on the next video, not this one but the next one, I will go through a clean cycle and show you exactly what this is meant to do. But in essence, what I was doing was cleaning it, but then all the air comes up this inner, the center chamber, and it cleans this, and then you drain it off, and it pushes it at an outward cycle, so through here. Now what I've done, because it's now, this is higher, what it does is, I could have done this before, I didn't have to do this, and I'll tell you for why, but I'll tell you what it does now, why this should work. So the air, you put the pipe in there, and I'll run through this, you put the pipe in there, and that stops the water going back into the pump, back to the pond. So you pop the pipe in there, you turn all your valves off, so this is completely isolated. You turn the air on, and what it does is it creates air, and it tumbles violently all of this micro K1, and what it does is it uplifts, creates an uplift, and because of this overflow it comes up here and it keeps sort of circulating round, so it's creating like a vortex, if you want to call it that. So the air lifts and the muck comes up here, comes in here, and you see it puthering out here into this outer chamber. So because of the force of air internally, the air is rising, creating this sort of effect, and dirty water can't get back in, because this is, if you like, not pressurized, but it's almost imparting a bit of pressure on the center of the system. So what you find is loads and loads and loads more muck comes out on the outer chamber. So in essence, you're still left, I find, that because you get that much muck out, you're still left with a dump, a fill, a bit of a, a cycle again, and then dump again. That's what I find. However, if you haven't got it that high, what I was doing was the same thing. You can basically fill this up with water. So you turn the valve pump off, turn the valve off the exit pipe, put that in there. Then what you can do is raise the water level in this, because it's isolated, remember. Bring the water level up to this level, and then you create that same vortex. What I was doing was I wasn't naturally having the pond set to this level or raising it, because I will find that this will just be jumping all. You've got to be careful, because you do lose some micro K1 then, and you see that some people have actually fitted covers on here so they don't lose it. So anyway, but what I was doing is, because that water level was lower, I was basically tumbling at a lower level, so the water, it wasn't fully forcing out and the muck coming over, spilling over into this outer chamber. But what I was doing before was giving it one heck of a clean. So I still don't think, to be fair, it's a much detriment to what it was to where it is now. But what is better is I've got more water for the bargaining, because I've raised the water level in there a good inch. So you imagine 1 inch by 2 meters by 1, that's added volume to the pond, or maximised the volume to the pond, and also the water level in here has now been maximised. Okay, so that's that, and then it overflows to outside. And I've actually got this for a absolute overflow if I wanted to, so I could do that, and then this would only overflow if I do that will now only overflow when that reaches its maximum level. So there you go. If that were to, but it's gonna, I'm in a greenhouse, it's no detriment. Now what I've turned the air off for is so you can see that this return, it was a good volume anyway of water, but if you look what that's doing now, see the ripple on the water? That's just by that return of water, and it comes here, look, and look at it hitting this back wall. So what this return does is like an eyeball, but it's all glued up, so I can't move it, but I've twisted it so it's pointing sort of at that angle towards the surface of the water a bit. But so if you look at that, you can actually see a swirl of water. So what it does is it's hitting here, look, and it's like a back current. So it flows back, circulating here, down here, look, back, swirling here. So we're getting like a swirl here of movement to water. Then it's also hitting here. You can see where it's coming back on itself, because you can see a line, like a tidal line there, look. See it? But then it encroaches that tidal line and it flows down here. See the food I've put in? See the current? And that is really what koi love. They love that movement. Look at that. You can't see it. Let's see if I can catch it. See it now? See this current ripple? There's like a line, like a tidal current here, where it's coming, hitting, forcing back, but then swirling back and hitting it. It's amazing, the line. So before I forget, I'll just pop the air back on. So that's one little modification, get the air back on full. Now this one, look at this one, there's no fish in here. If you look back on my video, vlog 65 I think it was, or 64, I noted that since I took the fish out of this grow on pond, and turn this ear off, the algae in this pond absolutely went crazy. Now I want to show you something. This has been since the weekend. It's now Tuesday the 5th. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd. I just popped an air line. Instead of running that pump, I disconnected the connection from there, extended the pipe, the tube. So instead of the tube coming out of here and up to there, it's gone through there. Look, the blue tube. It comes down there, and then it's buried under here, and it comes up behind here into here. Sorry. So if I turn that off, turn around, the ear's off, what can you notice? I'm astounded, if I'm honest with you. So all I've done is turn the air back on, nothing else, and got the water circulating. Look at the difference. Look at that pipe. That was covered with algae. Here, algae, what we want to call it, and it must have been a good inch long. But look at it. It's gone. Look at the walls. It's all reduced. So I thought that, you know, it was more to do with a lot to the light and things like that. But if you now look at this, look at that, you look at the difference, you go back a video and watch vlog 64 I think it is, or 65, and you'll see. And that's without me putting another fish in here. So what I will do in a few weeks time, once I start moving fish about, I'm going to put these side nets on, so there's a bit of a wall at the side, and then put a fish in or two, some of the smallest ones I've got, and keep them growing in here. Should any fish become ill, I will move these fish away out of this and then put them in the pond temporarily and use this as an emergency grow on then. But I want to utilise this space for my smallest koi, even if there's just 1 or 2 in here, just to swim around here and grow and enjoy the increased temperature. Because the temperature outside in my pond, I would probably say is around 7-8 degrees at the moment, but in here it's double, 14.6. so that is a wasted, that's 7 degrees higher than my outdoor pond. So think how much growing that koi would do in the next month or two. By the time the pond outdoors gets to 14, it will probably be June. So I've actually, by putting them in there, I could have a couple of months of growing for free without the heater even being on. And this should be the same. 14.3, yeah. So you think that is just by having it in this greenhouse. So that is brilliant. So I'm going to maximise that, put a fish in there. Let me turn the air back on, because I want to just discuss this pond. So with this pond, I think it's been going through a cycle. So I did some water tests the other day. I tested the temperature, I tested the ammonia, and the actual ammonia in this pond was 0.59 I think it was on my Anna checker. In fact, you have to times it by 1.214. But when I timed it, it came out I think 0.59. So the pH, I've reset or calibrated my pH pen. So my water in this pond was coming out at 8.4. The temperature is 14.3. Assuming the ammonia is still the same as it was the other day, at 0.59. If you look at this is on the Manky Sankey website. So this is basically the maximum allowable value of total ammonia in a biologically filtered systems to ensure that free ammonia doesn't exceed 0.02 milligrams. So what you do is with this chart, you get it from mankysankey.co.uk. If you know that your pond is cycling, ammonia is not good permanently, but if you know you're cycling a pond or a pond has crashed and you're monitoring it, you can get away with having a maximum allowable value of total ammonia without the koi being affected. So what you do is you get down the line of pH 8.4, You go over to 14 degrees is mine at the moment, 14 degrees. So that is saying I'm allowed 0.33 ammonia before it becomes sort of toxic to the fish. Okay, at the temperature and that pH. Now the lower the temperature, the lower the pH, the higher the maximum value of total ammonia is permissible. So at 7 pH and 10 degrees C is 10.5. Yet at pH of 8.4 and 14 degrees, follow it down, is 0.33. 14 degrees temperature over to 8.4. So the lower the pH, lower the temperature, the more permissible value of total ammonia is acceptable for a short period. Okay, because it's not toxic to the fish. So I've had to act on that. So what do? If you find yourself in that situation, so take off 0.33 is literally 0.2 whatever is you know, not allowed. So I'm above the threshold. So what I did, I'm doing water change anyway by putting water in and trickling it out. I don't want to keep doing water changes, so what I've done, I use Prime, Seachem Prime or Seachem Prime, and this is concentrated conditioner for marine and freshwater. Removes chlorine and chloramine, detoxifies ammonia, nitrite and nitrate. Now it doesn't remove it, so you'll still get a reading of it, but what it does is it detoxifies it. Not permanently, but that ammonia that's in that pond, it detoxifies it, so the fish don't become ill or are not affected by it. So I've ordered another bottle of this, so I'll have to keep putting this in for a few weeks. And what I also noticed, which is interesting, the KH on this was just tipping on 0. It was literally, if anyone's done a KH test, when you put your first drop of water into your sample of water, it should turn blue. Well, mine didn't, it was just yellow straight away, which tells me the KH was more or less 0. So what does that mean? Well, to me it's a sign that the biological bacteria in this pond water, in this pond filter and media, has kicked in, because that is consuming the carbonates in the water, and that's what reduces the KH. Okay, because the bacteria, that's technically what it feeds off. So to counteract that, what I did, you can do water changes because obviously it'll be in the water, but that's a lot of hassle. So what I did, I upped the KH to above 3, so it gives me some buffer, so in between 3 and 5 until it stabilizes. And then once this filter balances and the pond balances and it's gone through this bit of a cycle and stuff, I should find a balancing act where the KH becomes stable, pH is stable, the bacteria is fed and happy, not consuming too much, too little, it's just everything's hunky-dory. But these are the things you monitor. You monitor KH because that tells you if your filter has crashed, because what would happen in time after that, shortly after, the pH would have probably reduced as the water acidifies, and because that can cause your filter to crash as well. If you find that your KH and your carbonate hardness is really low, it can upset the balance because the water becomes unbalanced, and then you can get imbalances and then your filter can crash. Okay, but there is benefits to having a low pH, and I mean towards neutral, not acid, but neutral to slightly above, so say 7.1, and there's benefits to having a low carbonate hardness KH if it's beneficial to the fish's skin health, things like that, if it's stable. I'm not a fan, and I've said this before, I'm not a fan of, oh, my KH is 3, 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, oh, it's going down to 1, whacking KH in, it goes up, it affects maybe your pH and maybe your KH, and then it consumes back down again, back down to that 1 again. If it's consistently 1 and not crashing to 0, then I would leave it because it's stable. That's my view. That's what I always tell people. What's the point in throwing bicarbonate of soda in to raise it to 6 to 7 for the system to then drag it out after a few weeks for you to bung more in? What are you doing there? You're going 6 to 7, back down to 2 to 1. 6 to 7, back down to 2 to 1. You're battling the system. So what I'm trying to say is, and I will conclude, if your system is balancing out at 7.71, 7.2, whatever the pH, and a low, consistent, stable KH, then leave it. Don't put anything in. Just leave it and just monitor it. And in the moment that you think, well, it's that time of year like now, you'll find that in the growing season, those things can become stable because they are being used by the system. That's when then you've got to act and maybe think, do you know what, do I need to top this system up? Why is it happening? Well, it's obvious. The filters are kicking in, consuming it. So it's going to reduce it and draw it out of the system, and that's when you're at risk of the system crashing. So then, in an ideal world, the best system would be to have a top-up system where it's got, a storage of higher KH water, and that is drip feeding the system every day and putting something in, as opposed to me going in and adding it in once a week. In an ideal world, you could just grab a little handful and every day dissolve it into the water. That would be the ideal, little and often, all the time, constantly keeping it topped up to that level, as opposed to going up, going down, going up, going down. That's my views on that. That's the way I do things. So that's how things are going at the moment. The fish are showing no signs whatsoever of ammonia or ammonia burn or anything like that, the effects of the ammonia. So, and I've got some more sea chem coming. It's not cheap stuff, but it's worth it. It's really concentrated, it's brilliant stuff. So when I get this 500 ml, I think I have to put in 5 ml, that's a capful per 200 litres, so that's 10 capfuls, okay, and there's 500 ml in there, so this will last me a good few weeks, a good couple of months, and the cycle should be over and done with. Wow, look at the wind. So if I can, I'm just looking, excuse me, see if I can finish on the fish. It's very difficult in this greenhouse, but you can see them. There's 5 fish in there and they're still shy. They won't come up and feed when I'm in here, the buggers. As you can see, they are definitely putting on some timber. There's the Karashigoi there, grow and show Karashigoi. There's the grow and show Kahawk, who gained a bit of a belly on it. That Sankey that I got not long ago is definitely putting on some timber. The butterfly koi that I got as a sort of 3-4 inch koi from a aquatic store has grown great in this grow on. Not in this one, but it's originally put the timber on in my little grow on, but in the last month or so it's been in here. And then the Tancho Kohaku, wherever it is. Sorry, Tancho Goshiki, or Goshki, which is the one with the grey and the red circle on its head. So yeah, they are not showing any signs or ill effects from the ammonia. I've got everything under control and the feed is still going in. That's how I do things. I hope it's been of help. Please comment what you think. What do you do? Are you having KH issues, pH issues? Do you find that the things like me, they happen at this time of year in spring, and you can link it, or you should be able to link it, if you think about it and do a bit of research, you should be able to link it to filters and how they're responding. All the answers, I suppose what I'm saying, all the answers are there for us already. There's no secrets. A lot of it is all naturally occurring, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's a bit of a catch up. Hopefully you've learnt some bits and bobs. I keep it very simple. I'm not a biochemist or anywhere like that, like Manky Sankey, Sid Mitchell. Go onto that website, there's some amazing stuff on there. The stuff and the way he puts it, he's obviously a teacher of sorts, and very good at what he's doing. Unlike me, who sticks to basic stuff, that I try to explain it in a way that kind of works and I can counteract from something that is actually happening, i.e. KH has dropped, filters kicking in. Clearly I've read in the past, I've never used K1 before, but I have read, by God, does it consume some bacteria? Does it need bacteria, a lot of bacteria? And it can consume your carbonates. I've read that before, so that's why I know in coincide that I've read, and I've known from experience from the people saying it or reading it, and also the pod kicking in, with the bacteria kicking in, you know. So maybe that is a good sign as well, if I speak, that these filter bacteria balls are kicking in, because what I did at the weekend, cleaned all this out like I said, altered the levels, cleaned it out, put some more bacteria balls in. That's the second dose now. So what I will do, the next video, I'll be doing it this week, but I'll show it next week. I will show you how I clean that. I will show you putting the booster balls in, and I might do a KH test as well while I'm there, and make that a bit of a learning video like that of what I'm doing. And on top of that, the plants are looking marvellous. The citrus that I've trained into a standard, I keep snipping the ends out, but if you do, the actual flowers, you don't get as abundance of flowers, but I have got one flower there. And anyone that's grown citrus, they're absolutely beautiful smell. If you see a citrus plant or into plants at a garden centre, any citrus, the flowers are smell absolutely divine. A little bit like the Japanese orchids I grow there, Vanda falcata, amazing. But to end that, end it on the koi, end the grow on going well. Hope you've learnt something from the air going in there and the difference it's made. I think all I'm going to do with that, when I get my pond hoover out for the main pond, bring it here, hoover that out, take a couple of fish out of the main pond, put them in here, give them a grow on from the main pond to in here to get some growth, and then I might keep these in here, I'm not sure yet, but I might get the main pond. So to conclude, look at that flower. This is a Cymbidium. It's an orchid, Cymbidium, and it's called Geyserland or something like that. And then this is an Australian orchid, Get to Beast. I actually could smell something when I came in that was really nice. I did some divisions here of this one, the yellow one. So yeah, happy days. Hopefully now it's getting warmer. I've not noticed my heaters on at all this year, but still being battered by that electric bill. Oh my God, are we getting our pants down? Yes, the fan's on, look. They run with a circulation fan, but these heaters I know have hardly been on this winter, because I've got them down to about 6 degrees. So until it drops to about 6 degrees in here, they won't kick in, and I've got 2-3 kilowatts, but they haven't kicked in. So yes, I'm saving, but you won't bloody believe it because of the gas prices, electric gone up, ridiculous. But anyway, rant over. Please comment. What do you think to my ramblings? Do you agree? Do you oppose them, or do you find a difference? How's your setup growing? How's your pond going? Have you got a channel? See you later. Have a great week. Goodbye.